First question is from Brune Vanderkrook. We have for Zimtu. When I look at your stake in Zincgate, you have a very nice profit on your investment. Well done. Wouldn't it be wise to take a profit on part of your investment so you're less dependent on Zincgate and have better diversification in your investments? With the money, you could buy your own stock at a discount of about 80%.
All right. First of all, just to address the buying back our own stock, I'm not particularly a fan of that. Our overall plan is to continue growing the shareholder, the share base within Zimtu, and specifically to focus on less companies with a larger interest and more support. Our cash position at the moment is it's not marvelous, but it's fine. We are launching 3 initiatives to do just what I said, and that's expand the number of companies that we are supporting and have a larger position. So to that effect, you'll see that we are supporting a new company called Zambezi, and we are in a pretty good position to do that. Our latest company, Core Assets, that we got to trade recently, again, we have a large position in that, and we intend to follow through with that. We're currently working on a new project with another group in town that we originally sold a rare earth niobium property to, and they were in the process of taking that public, and Zimtu is stepping in to help them out with that. Again, we'll end up with a new company with a large share position. And I think one of the things that the question is addressing is why our share position is worth more than our market cap. In the end, that is going to do extremely well for Zimtu shareholders.
Okay, great. Next question here, also from email, is does Zimtu ever realize profits from its stock investments directly via the stock exchange?
I believe what the gentleman is asking in kind of a polite way is, do we ever sell the stock we own? And our general policy on that is if the company is doing the right thing, spending their money in the right area, and continue to work with Zimtu, we will hold their stock. Yes, of course, from time to time we do sell stock, particularly in companies that may not be following the work ethic that I believe you need to have.
Okay, great. So the next question here is again for Zimtu. So what is Zimtu doing to bring its own share price closer to the value of its holdings?
Well, we work on that most every day. Certainly these Zoom meetings with question period like this one, and the Zoom meetings that we do with individual companies that are in our portfolio is part of what we're doing to market Zimtu stock. The whole digital approach to marketing our stock has been accelerated by the whole COVID situation, and as we get out of that COVID situation and the in-person ability to meet people comes back, there will still be a large role for these Zoom meetings because they provide greater access for the investor to the individual companies.
Okay, perfect. So the next question here is, does Zimtu have a dividend or dividend in kind possible until the end of 2023? Why not go this route? This would attract more investors. Simply pay something like 10% of your holdings to your shareholders, but not cash, but stock of these companies.
That's something that we have talked about from time to time. It's not really. It's not certainly not in our planning mode at the moment, I guess that's all I can say.
Okay, perfect. So there's a few for Zimtu I see in the chat as well. So I'm just going to hold off those maybe for now and just move on to some of the companies here. So the first one, Sophie Caesar, I just wanted to welcome you. Thanks for coming. We're going to start with your questions here, if that's okay.
Thank you.
The first one here, and feel free to give yourself an introduction after I ask them here. So the first question here, what is the most exciting property in X-Men's portfolio and why?
Hello, everyone. I'm Sophie Caesar. I handle investor relations for X-Men Mining. So that's a great question, actually. Obviously, there's a lot of excitement around the Kenville, and we have been acquiring a significant amount of properties over the last year to add to our portfolio. But I think that when it comes to the most exciting property long-term, it's the Brett. It's loaded with tons of unmined gold potential. It's an epithermal gold deposit in southern British Columbia. It has 3 major gold systems running through it. There's already been a bulk sample done on it. It was 291 tons of an average of 28 grams gold per ton. We've done some work ourselves. We've opened up a portal, and we recently applied for underground drilling permits. So we're really in the hope, we really want to get in there. So it's in the hopes that we'll be able to do that in the next field season. And, around the Brett, it's always garnered a lot of interest. So I think that that's probably besides the Kenville and everything else we have going on, that long-term is the most exciting project.
Thanks. And so the next question is actually about the Kenville mine. And so this is from Mike C via email. What's the next step with the Kenville mine?
Well, it still remains the same. We've been saying it since the beginning, and we've been very specific on our path. We're waiting for the permits. We've done everything to prepare. We've put out news. We finished putting in a culvert, finished portal 257. We've connected the rail lines. I mean, as everybody knows, we have the hydro, we have the infrastructure, we have the team in place. So really, it's just the permit for the planned 1,200 meter decline, 100-ton bulk sample. And once we do that and we start that, within 6 to 9 months, we're going to be pulling out gold. So that remains the plan. Really, I think, one of the major milestones that for everyone to be watching is going to be those permits. We have a couple other ones along the way, but, we remain steady, and that's what we're doing.
Okay, thank you. So those are the only questions we've gotten via email, but if anybody has any that they wanted to pose to Sophie via chat or just unmute yourself, I can give a minute. Other than that, if there's no other questions for X-Men, I'll move on to the next company here, and that would be Arctic Star Exploration. So Pat Power, thanks for coming. I see you there. We have one question here for Arctic Star. So in your news release from the 27th of July, 2020, it now announced that Arctic Star had assumed management of the Digress property in the Northwest Territories from joint venture partner Margaret Lake Diamonds. Can you provide an update on the property at all?
Yeah, we are in the process of raising money to drill Digress. Our partner, Margaret Lake, I don't think is going to participate in that, so we plan to dilute them down. Currently, the structure of the joint venture is 40-60 in Margaret Lake's favor, and that will change after the spend we are proposing. And that will start in April and go through to June. And that will be drilling 12 holes minimum, and the fusion that goes along with success and hitting Kimberley. So that is underway presently. We just announced the first of several private placements to fulfill that. And we'll be mobilizing probably late March. We'll build a small camp and get to drilling in the first 2 weeks of April.
Great. Okay. Thank you. So we just had the one question there. Again, if you have any questions for Arctic Star, feel free to put them in the chat or unmute yourself and we'll be glad to ask them. I'll move on to the next company there. That would be Commerce Resources. So Chris Grove, welcome.
Thank you.
So the question here for Commerce is, what is the end goal that is in place for Commerce? What are the steps that need to be taken to obtain this goal and how do you plan on making them?
Well, the end goal for Commerce Resources is always the best result for the company and the company's shareholders. But to accomplish that and to drive down a little bit more detailed on that, it is our goal to have all three of our projects partnered with a major or all three projects into production. And I'm specifically referring to the Blue River project, the world's largest defined resource of tantalum, the Ashram rare earth element and fluorspar deposit in Quebec, and then our niobium claims that Seville has an earn-in option on, and which are of interest to niobium majors in the world. In terms of what we're doing to achieve these goals, we'll continue doing exactly what we're doing right now. And very fortunately, thank you to all the investors who sought to invest in Commerce Resources at 21 cents last fall, with the stock trading 47.48 right now. And we're very excited to have the amount of capital that we need to pursue these specific goals to achieve the overriding goal of getting an industry partner, and that is delivering samples as requested by global majors, such as what we did in December. And we're very happy that Glencore opined that that acid-grade fluorspar sample was commercially marketable. And now we're in the process of producing and delivering samples to the rare earth element majors who have requested those. So very, very fortunately, we have the capital to achieve these goals. And we very much look forward to the continued interest or the expressions, the more significant expressions of interest from these industry majors. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Chris. So we actually received 2 chat questions here for X-Men. So Sophie, if you're able to answer these ones, the first one here would be, the share has lost value. What was the reason exactly? When can we expect mining in Nelson? And is the approval positive?
I never like to speculate on, the market and why it dropped in price. I mean, there could be numerous amount of reasons to that. We potentially could have seen some tax loss selling, and I think that everyone is expecting the news to come out on the permits. So that's my best guess. I'm sorry, and what was the second half of that question?
The second half there was, when can we expect the mining in Nelson?
Oh, well, that's what I was mentioning before. So we're really hoping to get those permits any day from the BC government, but it's become my experience that it doesn't move very quickly. I hope nobody from the BC government is on here. We were delayed with COVID as well, just the shutdown of the office and people working remotely. We're expecting it, in shortly. And by shortly, I mean, it can be, within the next, I would say, month, 2 months. That's our expectation. That's what we're hoping.
Okay, great. And so the second question here, we had another one sent directly to us. How long is the field season at the Brett property?
That's a great question. We actually, they're actually planning out the field season today. So I wouldn't be able to tell you that. It's my understanding it is rather long, but we'll probably have more information on that, in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, great. All right, so we'll move on to the next company here, and we'll do core assets here. So Scott Rose, welcome. So for the first question here, will the silver lime or the blue be the focus of the next exploration program?
So hi, this is Scott Rose, and I have Nick Rodway, the head geologist of CORE, he's on the call here, so maybe he could take it away.
Yeah, no problem. So I've been, helping from the beginning here with this company, Core Assets, building it, and currently we're trying to build a in-house kind of technical team and advisory board. And to answer that question, so the blue property in itself has two different prospects on it. One is the Lavadier prospect, which is basically a magnetite skarn with high-grade copper and gold. And then about 10 kilometers to the west, there's the silver lime prospect, which is more of a CRD, so carbonate replacement type deposit. So you're getting these massive sulfide pods at surface. They come up in these steeply dipping limestone beds, and you're getting values 30, 40 ounce silver in these pods, very concentrated massive sulfide. So both of these are very closely related and characteristic of a porphyry environment. So the main goal here when we first acquired this is to try to look for the feeder system of the porphyry. So we're finding all the right alteration of surface there, but these systems can be quite large. We have a district scale fault system coming through here, the Llewellyn Fault Zone, which has been known to host many mines. And I guess the closest comparables would be Brixton Metals Thorn project. That's a porphyry down to the southeast. And then if you're looking at CRD stuff, probably Sun Metals would be your go-to in Canada. And they just merged with Serengeti there, I think it was probably about 4 months ago. And some other, CRDs are pretty well understood. And you're getting these high grade values at surface. We have over 30 occurrences at the surface there, massive sulfide. And in a global perspective, some other companies that have our CRD type deposits that have been sold in the past is Arizona Mining and their Taylor deposit. South 32 bought that for $1.8 billion. That was about, I think, 5-6 years ago. JDS Silver Tip project, that was bought for $250 million US. And then Mag Silver is another one. And that one was recently, I think that was again 3 years ago, bought for 1.9 billion, Canadian dollars. So, we're looking at very high grade deposits here, and we know that there's a feeder system there somewhere. It's where is it basically is the question, and that's what we're going to be doing the geophysics for, to better hone in on that. And then we had our news out yesterday, of course, yesterday about our drilling permits. So all of our permitting is done for our exploratory holes. So right now, it's all open here at the moment to just get on the ground and start building the layers that we need to find the system.
Great answer. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So we'll move on to here for one of Zimtu's newer companies, Eagle Bay Resources. So Steve Minot, I see you there. Thanks for coming. We're going to have Dave actually answer this one just because Zimtu's so involved, and this is our new company here. So Dave, the question here is, what are your intentions regarding financing, and will you be doing a financing round shortly?
So the answer to that question is this will become an amalgamated project with the Zimtu team and Pat Power's team out of his office. Yes, we will be doing a financing. Yes, it will start very shortly, and it will be of a seed round nature, which means you'd be investing in a private company, which is always a little risky. However, Zimtu is backing this. Zimtu is going to ensure that this company gets public. It is in the rare earth sector and niobium, which there seems to be a resurgence of interest in that area. So this is one of the companies that Zimtu is going to help to get public in order to increase the value to the Zimtu shareholders.
Great. All right. So we'll just move on here. Next question will be for Seville Resources. So Mike Hodge, we have you here in the boardroom. The first question is, what is the company's capital structure and market cap?
Seville's capital structure and market cap, we've got just under 77.7 million shares out, and the market cap is about 3.5 million.
Okay, and the next question here from Alex. Do you think your next drill program, you could get closer to an inferred resource?
We are currently planning our next drill program. There are 2 targets, Marana, which has never been drill tested, and then Mallard, which is where our last drill program was. We got excellent numbers back from that. Keep your eyes peeled. We will be letting you know more details on our drill program as we get there. But the short answer is yes. If we drill more holes in Mallard, we will get closer to an inferred resource.
Perfect. Great. Thank you, Mike. So next questions here will be for Zambezi Sports. So we have Matthew Schroen on the line here. Thanks for coming, Matthew.
Hey, Colton. Actually, if I can have 1 second, Colton, before you ask the question, I think we should all give Colton a shout out for handling that issue at the beginning of the meeting. That's a pretty stressful spot to be in, and he handled like a pro. And of course, this is Zambezi's first official Zimtu event, so off to a great start. So great job, Colton. Thumbs up, brother.
Thanks a lot. Don't worry, the recording, we'll get rid of that. That won't be part of it.
Or are you going to save it?
Yeah, I apologize about that, guys. Okay, so question for Zambezi. When can we expect to see the manufactured Zambezi boards, and when can we use one?
It's actually a perfect timing question, because just last week we signed our 3-year manufacturing agreement with Tahi Outdoors. They're in France. So we've been working with the engineers and designers there, and they believe that within 5 months, so Canada Day, we should have boards out there in the market. As far as using the board, the learning curve is really small. I mean, it's a synergy between swimming, which most people find somewhat natural, and cycling, another familiar sport. So the learning curve is about 5-10 minutes, and it's a kind of a fun 10 minutes because you're falling off the board and your friends are laughing, and so it's a really fun way to learn a sport. Once you get the hang of it, it becomes all about you. It's all about what you want to do in the water. If you want to go and catch 20-foot waves at Big Beach in Maui, I'm more of a 3-foot kind of wave guy, but you can go do that. Or if you're just a grandparents with your grandkids and you want to go swimming on a lake and talk about school and all these kind of things, if you want to use it for physiotherapy, the board's all about you. We're not trying to tell you what to do or what to be. So yeah, it's whatever makes you feel good in the water.
That's great. Thank you. And if you guys want some more information on Zambezi too, we just posted a video there. They had a recent news release, so you can go check it out on our website or our YouTube page. So new company, everyone's very excited.
Just if I could just point out, this is another initiative that is being supported by Zimtu, again, to sort of diversify our shareholdings into new markets. We certainly based our decision, and when I say our decision, it might be more my decision, but anyway, based on the 3 brothers that are behind Zambezi. They're committed. They're going to make this happen, and with Zimtu's support, I think you'll be able to see this very successful introduction into the sports world. Zimtu is very proud to have Matthew working out of our office.
Thanks, Dave.
In order to make this all happen.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, so we'll move on here. And we have quite a few questions here for Aries. So James, welcome. I see you here.
You're right, Colton. How's it going?
Good to see you. So yeah, like I said, we'll just get into it. We have quite a few for Aries, very interesting company. So the first question is, hi, I would like to first say that Aries Strategic Mining is a wonderful company and I love what they're doing as far as mining fluorspar. James is very knowledgeable. Says James is very knowledgeable and has an extensive background on what he knows. My question is, do you see the company being listed on the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ in the future?
Well, that's exactly the intention, is that we've already looked at the criteria to get onto the NASDAQ. And the only one we're actually missing is that once we hit, I think it's $40 million of our market cap have to be within US shareholding hands. And we're actually quite close to that already. I think most of our shareholders are now in the States. There's been a gradual transfer of shares over to the States. Once we get up to a certain amount, I think if you were to take the share price up to about 70, 80 cents, then we would qualify for the NASDAQ at that point. We are actually upgrading on the OTC as well. We've met the criteria now to be upgraded there. And usually that sees an increase of about 25% volume as well, just going on to the larger exchange for the OTC. So that's in the process of happening at the moment.
Great. Perfect. So that was from Bobby. Next question is, now that you have a new administration doing and removing in droves, does this affect mining and in particular your mining? I want to have assurances that Joe Biden's administration will not put a halt on local mining and opt to receive it externally. Have you or your company received any news on the administration going forward, and how will it affect your company?
We're okay. I mean, I don't know how, if anyone's got any mines in the US at the moment, but there was this really peculiar rule he brought in recently where he banned drilling for the whole, on all federal land, which means all drilling on mines. But thankfully we've done all our drilling, so it doesn't affect us. But if we hadn't have done that, then I mean, that pretty much ends any new mine because you can't construct anything without drilling. But thankfully we've beaten that. And I haven't seen any other new legislation that's come out that's going to detrimentally affect us. In fact, there's lots of schemes out there. I haven't written them down. They're actually in our favor that the government is supporting critical minerals and industrial minerals and rare earth minerals, which for some reason we come under, even though we're not a rare earth mineral. So there's actually lots of. I know but I'm not complaining. I'm just going to take it. So, I don't think they know what they're doing, which is great. You know, you really, and you can take advantage of them. And so, yeah, there's lots of actual schemes that are in place with the government that are in our favor, whereas the drilling thing is not going to affect us.
Great. That's awesome. Okay, so next question here. Please ask Aries how many acid spar tons are required to process 1 pound of hydrofluoric acid to be sold at $250 per pound. So I hope you have your calculator out.
I wasn't expecting this one. 1 second. So to get to 1 pound, how many tons? So you'd be looking at so that 200,000. So 10. So you'd be looking at about a reduction in force. So for every 4 tons of acid spar, you produce a ton of hydrofluoric acid.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so they were really looking for the acid spar to hydrofluoric acid ratio. So that's perfect. Great, and that was from James, actually, another James. The last question here for Aries, actually, we do have a couple in the chat, so I'll leave those till after this one. What is the potential tonnage per month for the Aries mining facility initially and in the future?
Initially, we'll come in at about 5,000 tons of acid spar a month. Actually, I'll back up for a bit. We'll probably go into production a bit sooner in lumps, which is a high-grade metallurgical product. And that'll come in at a few thousand tons a month, probably 4,000 to 5,000 tons a month. And then there's going to be a switch over to incorporate acid spar as well, and that'll rise to, it'll coincide with the opening of the Bell Hill mine, and then we'll double capacity there. So we'll be looking at sort of 10,000 tons a month, splits between acid spar and lumps, depending on what is most economic. And then over time, there's no reason why when we can't open up additional mines on it, we can't get up to well over 150,000 tons a year.
Great. So yeah, one in the chat here. Have contracts been let for the flotation plant in Delta?
So the RFP is written. It's just the RFP is now sitting with one of the process engineers for final sign-off before the RFP goes out. So it's written and it's ready to go, but it's just waiting final approval. But that's on the acid spar flotation plant. The RFP is written for that. But on the lumps plant, that's all designed and paid for, and that'll be on its way within the next few months.
Perfect. Okay. So that's it for Aries there. Again, if you have any other ones, you can put it in the chat or just unmute yourself. Now, Pat Power, if you're here, we do have a question for Winn Resources. So this one here is from Bill. Winn Resources recently acquired a new property. Can you tell us more about what the plans are for this property?
Yeah, we acquired the quartz property a few weeks back in Manitoba, in the Flin Flon area. It was drilled historically by Hudbay back in the 1975 era. We got some really interesting results. We are permitting right now. We plan to be drilling in the next, hopefully 8 weeks, depending on permits. But it's on a very shallow lake, which a lot of mines in Manitoba are, since it's a really lakey place. And we plan to have it drilled out within 8 weeks. That's our plan right now. And that's permitting, we have to get the permits first, but that's been very easy with our first project in Manitoba. That took only about 4 weeks. So we're hopeful that we have those in hand in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, great. So that answers most of the emailed questions. Now we do have a few backed up chat questions. So I'm just going to go into those. The first one here for X-Men, Sophie. We have, will Mr. Anderson speak at the Global Chinese Financial Forum virtual conference? Longing one space relatively is particularly important in the German market.
Well, I'll try not to take that personally since it's my face that's representing the company. But yes, Chris, Chris will actually be presenting at the conference tomorrow. Dennis, if you'd like to log on, he'll be on there at 11:20 Pacific time.
Perfect, short and sweet. Okay, so the next question there is going to be for Zambezi. Actually, Matthew, if you're able, the question is going to be from Helmet. When can I buy a Zambezi board in Germany?
Thanks for the question, Helmet. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah? Yeah. Helmet, so the factory in France will be producing boards in July. So it's a short stop from Vans, France to Germany. I think Christoph also has a board requested.
Perfect. So yeah, it'll be kind of the same area that you're planning to launch anyways. Okay, so now we have a question here. Randall, I believe you wanted to pose a question. I'm not sure if you wanted to unmute yourself there.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. Thank you.
Sure, go ahead.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Randall.
Hey, we finally get to meet. They shut the construction site down, and I had the day off. I got a question for Dave. Dave, what's it like riding a bull?
Well, the bull hasn't actually been charging of late, so it's been a little calm.
Okay.
But I'll
Mike,
give it a kick in the ribs here.
Oh, 10-4. Hey, Mike, listen, I want to thank you for your patience. And my experience into Seville was long and difficult. And I'm really glad that it was taken over by someone of Mike's credentials and professionalism. And my question to you, Mike, is the bottom line. There's two parts to this question. When do you see Seville profitable? And do you plan on keeping it, or are you going to have it bought out?
Well, for it to be profitable, we'd have to get into production, and that's a little ways away. We are working on an inferred resource at the moment, and we've got very friendly dealings with Commerce, who will be looking to be in production before us. What was the second part of the question?
Do you plan on keeping it and developing it yourself? Or do you want, are you going to have a player come in and buy it out?
Well, we're going to do what is in the shareholders' best interest. So we will look at and evaluate opportunities as they come in. That being said, I've been working on some of the commerce properties for almost 20 years now.
Can I ask one more question?
Of course.
All right. You said that the Merriam property has not been touched by a drill, correct?
That's Marana. So there's a target by the name of Marana that has a boulder train that dies off on a mag high. So the boulder train is going with the way the glacier pushed and drops on that mag high. So there are boulders that are coming back with 2, 3, 4, 5% niobium. The highest one had a 16% niobium sample taken from it, dying off on that mag high. So it's my belief that that's where we will find the highest niobium numbers. But we have to play to market strengths, and there is some people who are looking for us to provide an inferred resource at Mallard, which is why for our next drill program, I'm hoping to have enough capital to put a few holes into Marana while we push forward on the Mallard.
If you put the holes in Marana and it comes out extremely strong, that should, without being in production, that should move the share price, correct?
It should. Even drill results coming from Mallard with, we've had runs of over 1%. The only other producer in Quebec of niobium, their cutoff is 0.4, 0.5. That we will get strong numbers, I believe, from Mallard, and I'm hoping to get very strong numbers coming from Marana, but only time will tell.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Randall.
Okay, great. So we'll move on. Just in the chat here, Naya, I see there's a question here they're wishing to ask for Zincate. Unfortunately, Ron wasn't able to make it. As you can imagine, it's a very busy company. But we have Dave here. We will ask one question that came in via email for Zincate. What is the timeline before we see the first commercial battery in use at the 75 house in Surrey?
Well, at the 75 house, we have done our bit. We have delivered the battery to the house, and we're just waiting for the house, or really you should call it an estate, because to call it a house is a bit ridiculous, but I mean, the place is just huge. And so as soon as they're ready to hook it up, the Zinc Air battery will be in use.
Okay, great. Now, Robert actually did ask his question in the chat, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the general question is for Zincate, how can I be confident as an investor that I'm not part of a pump and dump scam in Zincate? For instance, how do you come up with revenue projections when you have not produced a dime of revenue and have no evidence of revenue for the foreseeable future?
Well, I think that's why they're called projections, because if we had absolute facts, we'd give them to you. But in order to try and anticipate what's going to happen for the company and what's going to happen in the market, it's quite common to do projections. And, some people will call them conservative. But in reality, your projections need to be as accurate as possible, not conservative.
Okay, great. And another one here for Dave about Zincate. Can you comment on Zimtu's current ownership of Zincate shares and warrants? The information on the website is dated to August 31st. We've got the...
So as of February 1st, it's at the bottom of the page, Zimtu owns 6.9 million shares of Zinc 8. Many of those are in escrow, as we bought some of the escrow position from the original owner, MGX. In terms of warrants, we have 800,000 at 30 cents. No, we have 1.1 at 30 cents. That's about it.
Okay, great. So we got a chat question here for Commerce Resources. Chris, if you are there still. Great. So the question is, how do you see the political crisis in Myanmar affecting your rare earth assets?
I don't see it having any effect at all. Ultimately, to answer this question as broadly as possible, the reality of the rare earth element sector is such that China, the largest producer, have outsourced a lot of their dirtiest production to Myanmar. And so the heap leaching with acid that so many people seem to think is common in the rare earth element extraction, it's only really historically common in the South China ionic clay deposits. And the Chinese government, being mindful of their population and political stability by essentially keeping their people happy, have essentially stopped that production in China. But they're more than happy to buy that kind of production from Myanmar. The current situation in Myanmar is, as horrible as it may be, in my mind is the world community, their reaction to it is too little, way too late. What about, the Rohingya, 18 months ago? The current situation there, to me, has no effect, appreciable effect on the rare earth element market anywhere, let alone North America. I mean, we're in North America. We're intending to be the next major alternate source to Chinese production. So the situation in Myanmar is not having any effect on us.
Great. Okay. So Pat Power, we do have a question for you in the chat for Lake Winn. So can you comment on the recent drilling activity on the Lake Winn Gold project? When do you expect to announce results?
We finished drilling last week. We drilled 8 holes. All the core is in lab right now. We expect to have all the core out next week. So we'll have assays next week, and it'll take us 3 or 4 days to formalize that to a news release. So late next week to early in the week after, we'll have assay results in news release form.
Great, thank you. So Dave, I don't know if you, I'll ask you this one if you can, but it's a question for Zinc 8 again. How long is the patent for Zinc 8 for their invention valid? I'm not sure.
That's an interesting question, and the interesting thing about patents is they do have an expiry date. However, as we are continually developing different aspects to the zinc air battery, we're continuing to add patents. So the actual expiry date is at this point unknown, but Zinc 8 will have the right to use that technology for probably the rest of my life.
So there's another question here from Robert Kell, just elaborating on the initial question. He wants to just focus on what can you say or what evidence can you produce to make me confident as an investor that I'm not part of a pump and dump with Zinc 8?
Your best reassurance that you're not part of a pump and dump is the fact that I'm involved and Zimtu's involved. So you can either believe that or not believe that. But let me tell you, when the Zinc 8 stock is making all of the shareholders wealthy, you will have wished you believed in Zimtu Global.
All right, and what I can say, Robert, is we have plenty of Zincgate information on our YouTube and website. You can take a look at that and build some confidence. So that looks like all the questions in the chat here. We do have a couple more for Zimtu specifically, so I was going to leave those towards the end. But if anybody had any other questions for any of the companies here today, then we'll get to them for sure. So I'll open it up for a minute here. Oh, and so yeah, there is something about Emerita. Unfortunately, David Gower wasn't able to make it to the meeting today, but we will forward the questions on to him. So if you wanted to email us at info@zimtu.com, we can forward your question to Emerita and get a response for you. One question here for Aries: is there any info or news since you last spoke?
Oh, yes, actually, since I last spoke, we got the assay results back. But one of the best results of that is that there was a proven 80% pipe, so 80% pure fluorspar pipe, over 60 meters in length, on the permitted mining area, and that's open at depth. And so we've discovered that, and we're going to install a lot of mining facilities just around that specific pipe, because we've essentially found over 100,000 tons of, or confirmed rather, 100,000 tons of ore that can go straight to market without needing any processing. So that was one of the big things that came out recently. But combined with that, we've also finalized an agreement with the Mujim Group about getting a lumps plant into production, shipped onto site sooner. So we'll be able to produce fluorspar lumps this year. So yeah, that was pretty good. So on the terms of progress is good. We're doing pretty well. Metallurgy is wrapped up. We'll be hitting about the final product we need for the industrial labs with an 85% recovery. Got lots of ore already. The mining engineers are just putting together the final spot letters. The government in the US is beginning to take a lot of notice of the fact that we're the only fluorspar mine in the whole of the US. And so there's all sorts of incentives now, tax incentives, grants that we're becoming applicable for. It's looking pretty good on our end. So progress is definitely decent.
Okay, great, thank you. So the next chat questions here, these are all going to be for Zimtu. Again, if you have any other questions, just put them in the chat here. But the first one, what are the investment opportunities offered by Zimtu for investors? How do shareholders who own your stock increase their wealth when investing with Zimtu?
Well, first of all, the best way to invest in Zimtu is to buy the stock in the market. That certainly the breakup value of Zimtu is considerably higher than the trading price. And we eventually will get that turned around. One of the other interesting aspects about the Zimtu is that it provides an opportunity for investors to invest in our Zimtu companies at a very early stage. At the moment, we have been talking a little bit about Zambezi. Zimtu will have a large share position, which will benefit all of our shareholders. But they are currently doing a seed round financing out of the Zimtu office. So for those that wanted to participate, you should get a hold of somebody in the Zimtu office, and they'll introduce you to the Zambezi guys. Likewise, the company that we're arranging to take public, Eagle Bay, is also a seed round opportunity. And that's certainly one of the other ways that you could profit from being involved with Zimtu. In fact, any of the Zimtu companies, one of the things that you can be reassured about is that you'll always be able to contact Zimtu to find out what's going on. And certainly one of the more valuable things for any investor is information. And that's one of the promises that Zimtu makes. and we'll make sure that there's always somebody to explain why the stock of any of the individual companies has gone up tenfold, or sometimes the other way around. But we'll be at least here to answer the question.
Okay. And the second question here, same person. Zimtu's homepage states that Zimtu Capital Vancouver is focused on the mineral exploration sector through prospect generation and company creation / building. Please explain. I've noticed that some of the companies in the core holdings are working to completely develop mines, while others are looking to maybe only focus on exploration, for example, core assets.
Well, I'll tell you a little story. When we first started to develop Zimtu, we were creating companies on the Henry Ford assembly line system. And that was the plan. However, as soon as we started doing that and starting adding people to these companies, they all became very different. So each of the companies that we're involved with, we have a very different relationship and different responsibilities to them. What was the rest of the question?
Yeah, so I've noticed that some of the companies are looking to develop the mines, while others are just focused on exploration. Can you explain?
Well, in the life of a company, especially a mineral exploration company, the first phase is always exploration. And depending on the results of that exploration, they could either go on to further develop it, or they could, as somebody was asking about Seville, they could opt to take an offer from a major who's going to put that into production. The general rule of thumb is an exploration company takes the risk out of looking for new mines, which is great for the mining companies, and they're quite happy to pay 10 to 15% of the value of the ore that's in the ground, because that leaves them 85% of the value to get it out of the ground and to market. But we have companies in all that are all different. For example, Exman is very much into turning themselves into a producer, whereas Commerce, with their extremely large and rich rare earth deposit, is probably going to end up going with some sort of partner. But, you know, that's not a foregone conclusion. And each of the companies, as Mike pointed out, will evaluate those opportunities as they come along. So that's why we have companies in all different stages of development and with different mandates.
And so the next question kind of flows into that one. And what I'll say is we have a recent blog post that talks about the different stages of a junior mining company. So you can see where the different stages of Zimtu's holdings are at if you go visit that blog post. But the third question here from this person is, from an investor standpoint, it would be very helpful to see the project timeline for each company's project. Is that available? It doesn't need to have firm dates on it, but they're looking to list the project steps from start to finish with an estimated lead time for each. This would give some investors ideas on the possible timeline for their ROI.
My. That is a question that I advise all of our companies to try and not answer, because projecting those kind of timelines are extremely difficult, and those timelines can get drastically changed by things like COVID or regulatory or changes in the market. The price of copper, the price of all of those things can affect that timeline. So that's a tough question to answer, and certainly sets the company up for not meeting those timelines. And so it's probably better off that they're not stated. Sorry about that.
That makes sense. Okay, so that's all we have here for questions. If anybody has any other questions for any of the companies, again, feel free to put it in the chat. But that's everything that we've got on email. Again, thank you guys for sticking through, because the start there, that was a little bit crazy, but
maybe some of them liked it.
We do have another question here from Robert on Zinc 8. What happened to MGX, and is Zimtu still invested?
What happened to MGX? MGX is still there. It's still under similar management to what it was before. Zimtu no longer has a position in MGX, although certainly over the 3 or 4 years we were involved, MGX was highly profitable for Zimtu and for its shareholders. They spent a lot of money through our analyst, Rockstone Research, which kind of supported that aspect of Zimtu's endeavors. The only person at Zinc 8 that can talk to the MGX management is me, and that is a burden that I have to bear. They still own, MGX still owns 5 million shares of Zinc 8, so we do need to deal with them. And whether MGX will come back in any sort of form from its original glory, I think they traded up to well over $2. There's a number of questions around MGX and what their future might be. But the reason I still deal with them is because they have that shareholding in Zinc 8, and it's all in escrow. And so twice now, Zimtu has used its bank account to arrange to purchase some of that escrow stock at I see there's an added question here. Is Jarrett Laserson an issue? I think the answer to that is it's not clear yet. We have over the time received a number of requests from the BC Securities Commission to provide information about their transactions. However, nothing has really come of it, but of course, Zinc 8 has been very cooperative in supplying that information.
Okay, so that looks like all the questions today. Again, some of these questions, if you emailed in and we didn't have one of the company representatives attending, we'll make sure to email you back. Everything will be available on our YouTube page as well as the social media. So if you want to read back on and watch back on everything, you can. So look for that in the next day or two. Other than that, did you want to say anything else?
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming, everybody.